What's up everyone, I hope you all had a fantastic Labour Day and welcome to day 5 of a Christmas themed week on TV Talks with Tom. Christmas is the HOH. We're going to talk about veto, we're going to talk about all the latest game updates. Way upstairs in the HOH room, there's a woman called Christmas. This week she's immune. On the other hand, the block sits Bay and Devon, and the chances of both staying are little to none. Who's going home this week? And all the latest game talk right here, guys. So welcome to your live feed update. So we're going to dive right in, guys, and straight away we're going to discuss the theme of Tyler wanting to leave the Big Brother house. As we saw yesterday, he was pretty much done with the game. He'd given up and he was just like, this is the end of the road for me. I want to give Bayleigh and Devon another chance. But it seems as though he's turned around and, you know, he's been persuaded to stay. He had a good conversation with Christmas, you know, about Angela, everything like that, and it sort of just made him a lot more comforted to stay in the house. And also, I think Christmas reassured him that both of them, Christmas and Tyler, and I do agree with the statement, they're both in a fantastic position, you know. They're probably in some of the best positions in the house. Yeah, they've got targets on their back, but definitely not the most forefront target out of all the house guests in there. So I think they're doing very, very well, and I think Tyler's made the right decision to stay in the house. So well done to Tyler there. And I think, if anything, I think Tyler's definitely in the running to win the whole game. So I think he needs to stick it out and get his head back in the game, because we know Tyler's a good player and we know what he can do if he has his head in the game, and I'm sure he can. So it looks like Tyler's staying for now, which leads on to the veto ceremony, which we'll talk about next. Christmas decided not to use the power of veto, leaving Bayleigh and Devon on the block for eviction this week. I think we can all probably guess that Bayleigh is heading home, but things can change in a couple of days. But we're going to talk about all the game talk that followed up after the veto ceremony. Straight after Bayleigh and Devon were in conversation, Bayleigh was crying, saying that just crying to Devon, saying that she was heartbroken after the decision that Christmas made to put them up and not to use the veto. And they also noticed the fact that Tyler didn't seem too upset, and they were sort of curious as to why this guy who wants to go home isn't very upset at the fact that, you know, he was going to give up his game. So they were just sort of throwing around loads of scenarios in their head. But obviously now it's out of Bayleigh and Devon's hands. They can campaign as much as they want. It all comes down to who's actually going to vote them to stay. Devon reassured Christmas that she is still her ally and they would like to work together still. She would like to work with Christmas still after the deal they made last night with the All Girls Alliance, including Christmas and including Danny and Nicole as well. But Bayleigh expressed to David that she was sort of happier about going out this time because she believes last time she looked like an angry monster, I believe is the phrase she used. She said she looked like an angry monster, so she's preferred to go out looking gullible and dumb, I think the phrase she used there. So it sort of came full circle for Bayleigh there, well, as much as it can come full circle for her game. And she also said to David that she was just slightly annoyed at the fact that Christmas said she put her up for the reasoning of the conversation she'd had with her when in the realistic timeline, she believes it was Danny, Nicole and Tyler that got her on the block, and as a result she feels a bit rubbish about it, but I think she's more glad about leaving this time than she did in BB20. Word on the streets of Big Brother Twitter tells us that over the past couple of days, we can't pinpoint exactly when, but apparently there was another wall yeller. We don't know if it's true, it may be false, but we're obviously going to talk about it because it's speculation. It may just be true and it might have affected the game. But there is this talk that apparently someone yelled over the wall that David has the third power, because obviously not many people knew about it, if anyone knew about it. So that could slightly affect the game, but obviously we don't know if it's true or not. It may not have even been a wall yeller, and the wall yeller, if there was one, may have totally yelled something else. But I just thought we'd flag that because a wall yeller is definitely going to change the course of the game, as it did when when the person yelled that Nicole and Cody is running the house. It pleases me to see that Tyler's head is back in the game, as he and David have the conversation, and Tyler asked David who he would put up as nominees if he was HOH, and that sort of diverted quickly. I don't think David really settled on anything, but Tyler said that if he was HOH, he'd put up Danny and Nicole. He's not messing around. He's making those big moves that people don't seem to have made really so far this season. So Tyler, if he wins HOH next week, he's taking that go at Danny and Nicole for one of them to be the first heading to the jury house, because obviously jury's coming up after this eviction this week. So Tyler is not afraid to make that big move there, and he's like, okay, if I'm winning HOH, I'm doing it my way, and I'm taking out Danny on a call. Yesterday we saw the conversation between Enzo and David about them wanting to keep Bayleigh over Devon despite the general consensus of the house, and we saw the same conversation today. David asked Enzo who he would like to keep around. Enzo was like, yo bro, I love Bayleigh more, but yo bro, you know, the house wants to keep yo bro Devon, because you know Bayleigh's not wanted in the house as much. Yo bro, yo times 15. And then David was like, you know what, we can flip this. It doesn't take much, you know, as long as we can convince Cody to get on board. But Enzo was like, no bro, you know, yo Cody won't want to keep keep Bayleigh around because Bayleigh will win comps, yo bro, and then they're just yo broed backwards and forwards until they're sort of settled. There isn't that much they can do, bro, yo, bro. The feeds went down for a couple hours for a Labour Day party. That's just a little bit of something we'll probably see in an episode on Wednesday or even Thursday, guys. So just a little bit of Labour Day cheer there for you folks. Bayleigh told Davon that she deserves to stay more than her. Bayleigh meaning she thinks Davon deserves her place more in the house because she realises that Davon spent her whole life watching Big Brother to get on the show, whereas Bayleigh was recruited off Instagram. She said that herself, and she said that Davon is the diary room queen and the meme queen as well. So Bayleigh really wants Davon to stay, and I think her wish is going to come true. Danny and Davon sat down to count the votes they would have to keep her around this week, and they counted 6 all told. So this week the magic number is 5 to keep people around. There will be 9 votes, so you need 5 for a majority of 1. So they counted the votes of Danny, Nicole, Ian, Cody, and Enzo and Kevin as 6 votes. I'm pretty sure she's going to get near enough a full house, if not a full house, to stay unanimous. But we'll just have to see how things transpire as the days go on. A really interesting transgression of the day was between Davon and Tyler, and this was sort of discussing all of Tyler's motives about leaving the house and everything like that. He didn't really say why, but he was sort of discussing how he feels it's going to be another shot for him, a new lease of life at the game. So, you know, they talked about when Tyler had gone to speak to Christmas in the HOH room, and he was wondering, you know, why didn't Christmas go through with this backdoor to backdoor Tyler? Tyler told Davon that Christmas told him it was too early to backdoor someone in the game. That was their opinion of that, and, you know, he was saying, you know, Bayleigh would give her the permission, or Bayleigh gave Tyler the permission to have him backdoor. It was just a lot of sort of things, you know, pre-planned self-eviction that sort of didn't transpire, obviously, guys, but obviously there was a lot to talk about there. So, you know, it's obviously Davon and Bayleigh sitting on the block now without Tyler as the backdoor plan that he planned himself. Obviously it didn't transpire, as we discussed there. But at the same time, Tyler said that now he's reached the jury stage. He feels like it's a reset of the game and a good time to sort of get your head back in the game and go, yes, okay, we're going to try and win this, and we're going to try and really give it our all. But Tyler ended up sort of ending that conversation, promising Davon that she has his vote to stay. Again, just reassuring the fact that Davon is probably going to have a full house here. But it seems as though Tyler's got his head screwed back on in the game, and he definitely wants to win, and he's here to play, especially with the conversation earlier with him saying if he wins HOH, he's putting up Danny and Nicole, who are in the Slick 6 with him, or were in the Crumble Slick 6 now. It's sort of like the Sloppy 6 or the Slippery 6 right now, because it's not really there, is it, guys? So Tyler's not messing around, and he's going to put up Danny and Nicole, and his head is back in the game. Bayleigh and Ian had a conversation towards the end of the evening with Bayleigh sort of asking Ian, where does your vote lie? And they sort of had that long conversation that pretty much every single person's been having about Tyler as the backdoor plan. Just lots and lots of things to take into account. But what I've noticed with Ian is when he's talking to someone who's likely going to be evicted, he often says to them at the beginning of the conversation, you know, look, I'm leaning like 90-10 or 80-20 towards keeping the other person. And then at the end of the conversation, he switches it to 60-40. So obviously the 60-40 is still not enough to keep them, but it makes that person feel like you've listened to them more. Like using sort of odds, I know it's not a massive thing, but using odds and sort of numbers like that probably sounds a lot more sort of intelligent and like you've cared and sort of listened to the conversation a lot more than someone just going, oh, I don't really know, I want to do what the house wants, that sort of thing. It's, you know, it's a lot more sort of straight up. Even if you're not going to keep them, it sounds like you care a lot more, and the conversation was digested more into you. And I think that's going to come into massive play when it hits the jury stages, especially if Ian can get deep into the jury stages. We know that he's going to make some great connections with people, and if he continues to make these sort of deep conversations and can reassure people as they head into the jury house, you know, he was honest with them, but he actually listened to them on the way out. That's going to get him some jury votes. The fact that he's a previous winner making it that far as well is also going to get him some jury votes. So going into the jury stage, I think Ian's in a very good sitting, and I hope he can keep up this very, very good style of gameplay. There was a very brief confrontation between Christmas, Davon and Bayleigh at the end of the evening in the early hours of the morning, with Bay and Day going to confront Christmas, and Christmas was sort of being quite passive of what they were saying, everything like that. Bayleigh and Davon were saying, you know, why you're adding fuel to the fire. Christmas was saying she wasn't, and it wasn't like a huge clash, but, you know, it was just a bit of sort of tension that had been building up because of the whole nominations and not using the veto. So we could potentially see something come to blows over the next few days, but that showed the early signs of definitely a big argument that I think could be coming over the next few days. that is all of your game and live feed updates for today, guys. We are a couple days away from the 5th eviction of the season. It's crazy how fast it's came by. But if you want to become a patron of TV Talks with Tom, hit up the link in the description. And you can also follow me on social media on Instagram and Twitter. All the links are in the description. But apart from that, guys, thank you so much for watching. You are all legends. I super appreciate the support a lot. But until your next live feed update, guys, don't forget to like, share, comment and to subscribe. I've been your host, Tom Vasey. Good night.